So today I just thought I'd talk you through some photos I took at a recent trip I went on to the Doncaster Dome to the Retro Gaming. Had a Retro Gaming market on, which was last Sunday in February in 2023. If you're watching this on repeat, I went with my good friend Andy and his wife Liz and their son Zan. Had a really good time. Just so much stuff to see. It does really bring the nostalgia feels back. So I'm just going to go through some of the photos that I took of the day, and at the end there'll be a couple of videos that I also took. So as you can see, when we got there was quite a queue on already. Normally they queue inside and go round the dome inside, but this time they queued outside. You can pay a bit more and go in earlier if you want, an hour earlier, but we didn't bother doing that. So the queue was quite extensive, and you can see it went from behind us as well all the way back up to the car park. The parking there is a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, because it's not the biggest car park. It's like a giant leisure centre, so you've also got the people who are there who are going not for the market. So this is the way in. So the obligatory Funko Pop stall was there. Loads of Funko Pops. My daughter collects Funko Pops. She's got lots of these. So yeah, if you're into Funko Pops, you were definitely catered for. Again, I'm not really into these, so I don't know if any of those are worth anything or not, or rare or not. And then we get into the good stuff, starting to look at all the old systems. So the one thing I did notice this time, much more stuff for consoles than normal. Usually there's a mixture, and there were other stuff there as well, but it was very console orientated. So as you can see, there's some 7800 games there, some Atari 2600 games. The old Pong game at £70 seems a bit steep, but I suppose it depends on what variant of it is. And you can also see the Maverick 3 joystick. It was quite busy. The way they laid it out was pretty good this time. The stalls were a bit more spread out, so you could actually get to the stalls. Usually it's a bit more compact, but yeah, it was spread out. The interesting thing is the prices of consoles, how they've gone up. Like that Dreamcast there, £150. I can remember picking box ones up of them from a car boot, which given is not a gaming market, for like a tenner. So obviously things are going up and up and up. There's a nice Philips CDI video cartridge there as well. The handhelds were catered for as well, so if you're into the handhelds, the Game Boys, Game Boy Advances, Game Gears, anything like that, there was a lot of stuff there for those also. And also the older consoles like the NES, the N64 stuff. A lot of foreign imports as well. If you were into the import side of the retro gaming, then you were catered for as well. The good old Commodore 64 Mindbenders pack, I remember seeing that. This guy was a guy who was also, was selling VHS video recorders and VHS video tapes. Interestingly, and again I don't know why, but if you look on the top up there, it got Heretic sealed for the PC for £100. Now I don't know if that's the going rate for it, but again, Replay, that's the actual budget release of it, so I don't know if that's rare or not. It was something that I found quite interesting, to be honest. Good old handheld systems again, the original LCD ones. Firefox F7 was I remember getting that as a child, and I remember my friend having Scramble as well. So I can the battery gobblers, as they were called, unless you had the adapters. ZXspectrum plus 2. James Bond pack. Sorry about the blurred photo, but I was moving at that point. This guy did have a lot of Spectrum stuff on his store, to be honest. And also can't have the Spectrum without having the Commodore 64. There were I saw a few Commodore 64s boxed, not a lot, but a couple of them. Again, some more Funkos. A few Saturns, Nintendo GameCubes, box SNES there with Super Street Fighter 2. The little plug and play TV ones. I think it's the Namco second one, because obviously on the top of that the yellow joystick steers like a steering wheel as well, so you can twist it to play pole position, which is pretty good. Master System games, not bad prices, to be honest, if you were collecting for the Master System or the Mega Drive. This guy goes every time. I've bought a few things off him. He has a lot of arcade, like the sticky toppers, so if you want these for your gaming room or anything to put into your wall, you can get those from him. He had quite a lot of them, various different arcades. PC section, which I always have a flick through. I know a lot of people don't really like the PC games, but I do like these ones. At the back you can see they also had some big box PC games, which I had a look through. Didn't actually buy anything, but it was good to see them there. PlayStation 1 and Wii and PlayStation 2, so many PlayStation 2 games. Loads and loads of PlayStation 2 games, probably the most I've ever seen. If it seems that's falling into the retro market now, as it should do. It's part of history. So this guy had a few consoles on that was sold as seen. He'd not tested them, so I'm always a bit wary. I know a guy next to me bought the actual Commodore 64 for £40 with just on its own. There were no cables or anything, so it wasn't a bad deal. But you take your chances, I suppose. If you know how to fix them, then do it and get them mended. There was a +2, and under the +2 was an Atari ST. Lots of old 9-pin joysticks there as well. Quite a few consoles on this stall. The Amstrad GX4000 and a 3DO there boxed, which is always good to see. Again, you could tell the good stalls, because there was quite a lot of people around them. They were quite hard to get to, especially the ones with the more rarer things on. So yeah, I don't know what he's grabbing there, but we'll not question that. See a Mega Drive 32X on the top. There's a PC Engine CD system at 330 and a core graphics. This guy also had a lot of WWF action figures from back in the day. I think he also had a Virtual Game Boy as well, I believe. There was lots of stalls selling old magazines, so there's Zap 64 from back in the day. I did actually have a nice chat with the guy from Amiga Addict. Was it Amiga Addict? Yes, Amiga Addict, which I bought. I bought a magazine from him. I had quite a good chat with him on the day, which was nice. The Tomitronics, the handheld 3D systems, there was quite a few of those about, all the different ones. There was the Sky one and obviously the car racing one as well. This stall also had the Atari Jaguar. Just the Jaguar itself, it didn't have the CD attachment or anything. I think that actually sold. I think it was about £200, and it did actually sell. It wasn't there for the rest of the day. You can see an Atari 800XL, or is it a 600XL? I'm not sure. 600 I think it is, and a Commodore 64. And there's the other Tomitronic one I was talking about. I can remember those being advertised, which just makes you feel old. And there's good old Amos for the Amiga. Now this was really interesting. The guy was selling his original Acorn Atom. It's the first time I've ever seen one in real life, and I had a look at it. He was selling it for £200. Interestingly, I got talking to him, and he did actually have the original receipt that he'd got from Acorn Soft. He showed me that, which was crazy piece of nostalgia. That I said that's probably worth more than the system if you keep that. So I think it was 1981 or 1980 he got it. I can't remember now. My memory's not that good. Shot of stores. As I say, there was such a variety of games and different things on each store. So as you can see there, from the Commodore 64 at one end all the way up to the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. You can see a Game Gear there also, and a Wii. I love flicking through the old tapes, because the one good thing about it is it gives, sometimes you see things you've never played before. So what I do is, if I see something in that pile that I've not played before, I'll come home and play it on the emulation just to see what it looks like. It takes you back, because there's always games you've never seen before. Pokemon cards, quite a few places had Pokemon cards on the stall. Again, another ZXspectrum from Dixon's this time. I like to see that, the Dixon's deal that you used to get. I think that must have been after Amstrad took them over, with it being an exclusive deal. I can really remember those being on the actual in the actual stores. Again, another Firefox F7 there, a few U cards at the side, and PlayStation 1 games. A lot of, like I say, import games. This guy had an Acorn Electronics store boxed and had quite a few Spectrums on there. I think his speciality was actually Spectrums, and there was a Commodore 64 at the bottom as well. He'd obviously restored them as well and re-chipped them, etc., to make sure they were at the peak performance, if you like. There was just so much stuff to see. There was, you name it, it was there. Again, there's a Dreamcast VMU there in the background, a Wii, the old grandstand systems. I think I've had both of those at some point in time in the collection. Oh, and there's also a floppy drive there, an external floppy drive for the Amiga. You can just see that on the right. More foreign import games, like Japan games, Japanese games. Some of the stores again were just piled on, which I love it. It was so good to see. So you could just go and have a look through them and just like I just like that kind of game. Some of them were too fancy laid out, which is fine if that's how you want to be on, but I like to have a rummage, if you like. A lot of Commodore games and Spectrum games under the tables. Mad Flunky for the Atari ST. I've never even heard of that, so I'm going to try and play and see what it's like. That's why I took that photo. I just thought, I've never heard of that game. I'm gonna get it, see if I can find it and play it. Some NES Zapper Guns and N64 titles there. Lots of joysticks again. All different types of joysticks for all different types of systems. There's a Philips CDI cartridge again, £75 for a video cartridge. This was actually on Tootyuk, the YouTuber's table, a Dragon 32 box, and the irony was we've been talking about this on the way up there because Liz's family have got one, and we were talking about the Dragon 32. It was interesting to see a boxed one, which was it's not something you see every day. Lots of more games. Tons of console games. An Acorn A3000, again, not something you see all the time. It's not something you see very often at these markets. It was good to see. Took me back to my school days, because that's the computer we had at the senior school I went to, with a 3-button mouse. The good old Amiga A500 Plus. That was the only Amiga I actually saw there. The only system I saw there, should I say, the only Amiga system. Obviously there were games about, but that was the only system I saw for the Amiga. Normally there's quite a few knocking about there. Game Gear on the top that's been modded. Atari Lynx, that Lynx 1, yeah, Lynx 1 system, and also the Sega Game Gear box. Lots of different consoles. There's the family computer from Japan, the Famicom. There again, there's the PC engines with a sharp Famicom underneath there. I took this picture because I saw Ultimate Warrior in the box from 1991 toy. The bitmap books were there. With their selection of books, which are really good. I've got the Amiga one. A Tiger Gamecom. Interesting. No comment on how good that system is. A 3DO controller. Lots of other things. This was one of my favourite stores. It had quite a lot of the old big box Amiga games on. I didn't obviously buy any, but I just love seeing them. I just love seeing the Amiga stuff. It takes me right back to the old computer shop days when you used to go in and there was stuff set up like that on the shelves. Just that nostalgia feel again. So many good games. Hired Guns there at the bottom. I played that loads. They had lots of boxes, obviously, of Commodore 64 and Spectrum titles. Again, I took these pictures because I just like to look through them. I just like the sight of old cassettes. I'm a bit weird like that, I suppose. There was board games, if you're into board games. So Five Nights at Freddy's, Star Wars, Marvel, all sorts of X-Men. all different types of board games you could play. Street Fighter up there as well. There's your Commodore 64 box, Commodore 64s. There was a stall with homebrew Dreamcast games on, which I had a go on, which were quite good. Which were, one was a fighting game and one was like an 8-bit, like 8-bit type of game where you had to collect and go through caverns and things. Back to the other game with the tapes on. And that brings us into the pictures, but I'll also put on the end of the video some video that I took when I was walking around, a few clips, so you get a feeling of the atmosphere as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'd say if you want to hear me waffling, then I can only apologise if that's not what you like to hear, but I just wanted to talk through what I saw. I like to look at photographs because you can look at things and study them and see what's in there. So thank you very much for watching. Have a good day, and I'll see you again soon.
On some new we'll hit issue 27. I've already bought you stuff.